Irish unity could cost us €20 billion a year for 20 years, according to a rather pessimistic paper published today by the Institute of International and European Affairs. We're going to speak to John Fitzgerald, who's the co-author of this, a little bit later on. Now, there are different computations in this, but Ciara, the question is this something that should give us pause for thought as we begin a wider conversation about potential unification in the years ahead?
Well, the answer to that is absolutely it should. And you say pessimistic and I say realistic. What this says is it's going to cost us 20 billion a year for 20 years. It would cost us 10 billion to replace the subsidies that come currently from the UK to Northern Ireland. So that's a kind of a given. But what they're saying is unless we were going to pay people in Northern Ireland less than people in the 26 counties, then we would have to add another 10 billion because we're paid better down here. Our public servants are paid better down here. Our social welfare rates, our pensions are better down here. So unless we're going to have a two-tier system of I suppose, public expenditure north and south of the old border, it would cost us 20 billion. And there's a line in the report, Johnna, that jumps out at me and it kind of sums up how I feel. It says, funding the needs of the people of Northern Ireland and the United Ireland would put a huge financial pressure on the people of the Republic, resulting in an immediate and major reduction in their living standards. That's for a generation. And that's the generation that's going to be pretty much the rest of my life and the generation of my kids when they're trying to get a home and they're trying to start a career and a family and all of that. And as somebody who would sleep easily, and I know I'm probably in a minority on this island saying this, but if we were never united, I wouldn't lose a night's sleep over it. I am a product of my own upbringing, and I was born in the 70s, and I grew up just accepting Northern Ireland existed as an entity in its own self. And I cannot make myself care enough about the four green fields to want to impoverish a generation of my own family and relatives and all of that. And you can call that selfishness, you can call that whatever you want, partitionist, whatever the hell you want. You know, text away. I don't really care.
You can call it all of those things, to be fair. But
yes.
One of the challenges that I have with this report is, yes, it's a paper. It's a desktop exercise, number one. I'm not questioning the validity of it. But what I'm saying is that the essence of nationalism, the essence of statehood, it shouldn't be based around economics, because no state was ever built on the basis of whether or not it was going to cost money or not. If this was to be done, it would be for reasons of nationalism. It would be for reasons of bringing together two countries that should be together through consent. But
John,
hang on, Brexit.
How do we see that? That Brexit shot the UK in the foot, but we can't see that this is shooting us in the foot. How do we see that?
Brexit shot the UK in the foot. I mean, number one, this is the biggest argument against partition that I've ever seen. And I know that the Troubles have had a massive economic damaging impact. But at the same time, Northern Ireland isn't working. It just isn't working. What they're doing right now, I mean, I know post-Brexit it's actually doing better than the other three countries in the United Kingdom, but you should never use economics as your starting point for nationhood. And that's what this report is asking us to do. There are other factors that would come in. If it ever happened, do you think we wouldn't give the UK a massive divorce bill for having let this happen to the Northern Irish economy over the last couple of decades? Of course we would.
Except
they
for
couldn't
it
simply
also
walk
says,
away.
Jono, it also says in the report that we would have no leverage because this would only happen, and this kind of, I suppose, nuts and bolts.
It would happen through the consent of the people on both sides of the border. Because
but we would already have
consented.
So we would already have consented. So we would already have consented to United Ireland. So we would have no leverage to slap a divorce bill on anybody. Look,
well, they're also
I hear what you're saying.
The 20 billion is the top end. There's a 10 billion analysis as well. For the record,
well,
there's two numbers in this particular report. That's
fine. Are you going to continue to pay them 87 quid a week social welfare and pay us 204 quid a week social welfare? Because that's what we would be saying if we're going to only have a 10 billion bill.
Not a good starting point for unification of the conversation.
That is a lovely idealism, that economics should never influence statehood and all those other lofty things you have said. At the end of the day, I don't particularly want me or my family or my community to be impoverished and have a substantial reduction in our standards of living for a generation in order to do this. To me personally, it isn't worth it. I feel no particular sense of, oh, how wonderful would it be? I don't care. And maybe I should care, and maybe loads of people will hate the fact that I don't care, but I don't.
You're not wrapped in the green flag. I mean, that's abundantly clear.
All right. Look, let us know this morning what you think. 20 billion every year for 20 years Is it worth it? Do you still want a united Ireland? Do you want to pay for it? Because that's what it's going to cost us. And that's before we even get to anthems and flags and constitutions and all of that. That's the price tag.